Good evening, everyone. We'll call the meeting to order. Rebecca, would you please call the roll?
Hamilton.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
Rasmussen.
Yes.
Revelinsky. Anderson.
Yes.
Hallie.
Yes.
Flournoy.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Council, we will add a project update from Melanie in administrative and department reports. Are there any other additions to this evening's agenda? Okay. Now, we'll move then to our consent agenda. And we have several council meetings, approval of minutes from the October 9th, 14th, and 18th council meetings, 14th and 18th being special meetings. Approval of minutes for the Beautification Commission. Approval of the annual tax increment finance report. Also approval of the September finance report. We have approval of the October 13th special payroll of $11.12. I didn't get an explanation on that one. A special payroll, $11. Okay. And then also approval of the October 20th payroll, $115,670.66. We have a resolution of employment in the wastewater department for part-time meter reader and approval of claims in the amount of $199,973.51. Any questions, council, regarding those consent agenda items? Okay. Not entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Anderson, second by Thompson. Please call the roll.
Anderson.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
Rasmussen.
Yes.
Hallie.
Yes.
Flournoy.
Yes.
Hamilton.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Council, we'll move on to our public appearances. And this evening we have Dave Schaub with Waste Management. And Dave and I met this afternoon and we discussed some of the issues that we had all discussed at the last meeting regarding the contract bidding process and also the tote project in town for regular garbage, not the recycling. And there's some ideas that Dave would like to present. So go ahead, Dave. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you very much, Your Honor. For those of you that I have not met, my name is Dave Schaub. I'm the Municipal Marketing Manager for Waste Management in Central Illinois and Eastern Iowa. It's a pleasure to be here. All that I do for the company is represent us in terms of our municipal clientele and all our contracted municipal clientele, so it's a pleasure to be here. I reviewed the tapes of the last meeting after the committee meeting. I did not stay for the council meeting, and I apologize for that. And the item came up of bidding the contract out, this is the arena that we compete in every day, so that's certainly not new or a surprise. We had been in discussions with staff and with committee since March of this year concerning an extension. However, if you'd like to go out for check the pricing, that is certainly reasonable. I share a history with you folks that at one point I was an elected official. I was a school board member and president, so I have an appreciation for your side of the podium as well as my own. The only problem that comes to mind are two things. Number one, my prices are slightly in the air, as we've had a number of communications back and forth concerning those prices. And I know that was precisely the situation you wanted to avoid. It's the same process that was, in effect 7 years ago. Everything that we have done is easily discoverable by either the Iowa Open Meetings Act or the Federal Freedom of Information Act, and be that as it may. The primary concern that I have with the city's request to go out to bids, which is certainly your decision to make, is the time frame. This contract ends in 39 days, which does not leave much time, if any time, to formulate an RFP, to properly research it, to publish it, and to look forward to qualified respondents. So what I'm here tonight to do is to suggest to you that we would like to provide an extension opportunity, a short-term one for the city, to take us through the following steps. The reason that we are so insistent about bringing the cart situation to light is, for the dealings I have with municipalities across the board, carts are the chief issue. For those systems that don't have carts for solid waste, that's what they like to see. And the implementation of carts is simple. The impact of carts is just the same as the impact you saw 7 years ago when they were initiated into the recycling end. They're much more convenient, much neater. There's just a lot to be said for them. The visual effect on service day is something that I still find remarkable after 19 years of doing municipal work only. We'd like to present a proposal where we would extend it to the point where we could identify testers for the carts, rather than just talk about it in terms of the abstract, would you like a cart, would you think it'd be worthwhile? We'd like to see a program put into place that for every ward and for the at-large representatives, everyone could pick 15 people to test these carts. We'd be happy to put them up for that purpose. We'd also want to make sure that every council member got one, so it's just not, what did you think about it? What do you think about it? Here's the information that I gained from my own use of it. We'd like to see those placed into effect for a reasonable amount of time. We'd like to see the identification of the folks who would get the carts in January of 18. The carts distributed late January or early February in 15. They're evaluated in June. Bring that review to the council in July based on what we learned from that test period and from that review. Help you formulate an RFP. We have, because we are a nationwide concern and the largest in our industry, we have a huge library of data that we can make available to you in terms of sample RFPs, the boilerplate of how they're presented, what needs to be included, and we can make that available to you at a moment's notice. It's just a great resource to have. If we could do that review in June with the council and then review the results, review the cart users in June, review it with council in July. They'll give us August to develop the RFP, and it could be issued as early as September easily. And whatever date you want to put as a termination of the contract at that point, is up to you. But from our experience, that seems to be a good test period, a good timeline, and gives people 4 months worth of use of the cart where they're not going to use it slightly, take a look at it, think about that, and have to respond right away. Get 4 months of use. Get a change of seasons in there. Get different weathers, get everything else. And have everybody given the opportunity for each ward and for the at-large to select people who would be pro or, maybe for or against them. Get as broad a range as we can and give them a test. It meets a number of things. It gives us hands-on on the carts. It also gives us time for the city to do the job that is required to formulate an RFP and to put it out professionally. Right now, with staff considerations that you have, which is unique to just this time frame and the length of the contract, it really needs to be extended for some point just to make sure that we can all do the job that you'd like to do.
Okay. Well, thank you, Dave. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
John, some comments.
Yeah, a couple of comments. Thanks, Dave. Thanks for coming
Happy to.
all this way one more time. We are still getting responses from our survey. The responses were very good. We probably have about 300 responses by now. And I will say that it's overwhelmingly against wanting to pay for another cart, about 4 to 1. The problem that I see with your proposal of picking 12 people who will give these carts to and let them see how they are, and then after that test and hear back from them, and maybe they love them, and so I have a feeling you're trying to talk us in as a body to saying, well, all those people who fill out that survey, they don't really know how great those carts are. Now that we see how great they are, maybe we'll just have everyone buy and have one, get them for $1.50 a month. I think the problem with this is picking who's going to get the cart. And if you pick those, 20% of the people who kind of wanted to dispose of more garbage, they're going to love them. If you're going to pick the typical customer, it's going to be way too much capacity and way too big for their yard. You could give them the smaller one, I guess. I admit it would be nice to have sort of uniforms, set things that don't blow away. My feeling is you're coming back to this because I have a feeling that waste management benefits from this because it's automated. You can have a mechanical lift instead of human people lifting the garbage cans. Personally, I will mention again what I mentioned in our committee. If it's to your advantage, fine, you can give them to us, the two sizes, and we'll distribute them. But our people made it crystal clear that they're not at all interested in paying for them.
Well, and that's, I think, the differential that we're looking at is one was a question about the functionality and one was a question about the cost. Let's put them out and not have a cost attached to it.
To
Let's see what
12
the
people,
functionality-
but yeah, well, so they could say, so are you saying that if these 12 people in my ward really love them, that you're going to give them for free to all my people in my ward?
We'll make the decision on pricing at the end of the process when we enter into the RFP. But there'd be no pricing involved with.
Well, I
with the
understand
task.
it would be free, but again, it's sort of, you know, if you choose the big families to give them to, and that's what I'd be tempted to do. It's like, hey, here you can throw out an extra thing and whatever. Anyway, I don't think I'm not going to be here, but I don't think it's a sample that would be appropriate to make a decision for a whole city on. If you want to use mechanical emptying carts, give them to us. We'll be happy to use them.
Other questions or comments on the
Well,
offer?
I guess just to respond, at least in my case, and I'm neutral either way, in a sense. I guess you can't be neutral and be here, but that's all right.
Yes or no?
But on my street, I mean, there are like 6 or 7 houses there. Every one of them has a different method for putting the garbage out. Okay, 2 out of the 7, okay, almost always, there's either dogs, coons, or possums that are eating it. Okay? I mean, the idea of getting up at 6 in the morning after I put it out the night before, and it's not mine, but somebody running around picking up garbage that I put in there the first time is not very appealing. So the idea of having some kind of a container, to me, makes all kinds of sense. And the other thing is, again, strictly from my sense, we're not talking cost. I'm just talking the feasibility of it. To see those guys go along. I mean, anything that makes the process easier and simpler, I would think we should be looking for it. I mean, Fairfield's always wanting to be a progressive community, and we're saying, put your garbage out in any old bag you want. Mm-hmm. I mean, that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I mean, that's, if that's the case, let's get some high-V paper bags and put it out there, So
one more thing I want to say on this. Tell me if you're done.
Right now.
I have a problem with the idea of giving people just the option all the time for 96 gallons every week. Because, I mean, the whole idea of recycling is to keep down the waste that we put in our landfills. Mm-hmm. Suddenly, we're giving people the opportunity to put 50% more out in the landfill every week. And to me, that's also kind of counterproductive to our kind of ecological goals of our city.
In our experience, regionally and further than regionally, recycling had its genesis with some punitive measures attached. We're going to charge you by the bag, or we're going to charge you, for X amount of trash that you put out, and if there's more, we're going to charge you more. And that was the idea that would drive people to recycling. What we have found in the decades that we've been involved with recycling in North America is that recycling responds much more positively to education than it does to a punitive measure. So, given the opportunity to speak with civic groups, especially given the opportunity to speak with fourth graders, to make it part of a curriculum, which we have all professionally developed curriculum for that, to give it a positive reinforcement and education. No one is born recycling. It's a learned activity, and any learned activity needs reinforcement. And we find that with a positive reinforcement, with ongoing touches about education, it responds much better than it ever did to anything punitive. And that was a hard lesson to learn because we learned it along with everyone else over the last 30 years. So we find it's a learned activity and it requires education.
The other thing too, the capacity issue is an interesting one because when we went from curbside bins to the larger, we increased our participation by 70%. Immediately, that measured within a 6-month period, and that's positive. And I understand Councilman Revolinsky's point. I'm not sure I agree with it that because we're offering more capacity, people are going to be generating more trash. Again, this is a means of sort of in a more orderly way picking it up at the curb. And you and I also discussed today how that helps to sort of protect the health and longevity of your workforce. It's not going to reduce your workforce, but it is basically going to take that pressure off of them. And that's something I think we should, we should support in a sense. But I wanted, Council, in terms of where we are at the end of this, John, is one thing, because again, at a certain point, there will be something in writing in terms of a proposal that comes through an RFP that will include containers. And at that time, the council can vote yes or no at that point. But to go through an experimentation with this as a technology and seeing how it looks in the neighborhoods and what kinds of responses we get, I don't think that hurts us, and I don't think the extension of the contract hurts us either. But are there any comments on the extension of the
Well,
contract?
I think only because I've had the good fortune to sit on the Waste Management Board. And I think, to me, this would be something that we seriously should consider, because I really do think that when, you have the opportunity to hear the people from Washington and Hedrick and other areas and the struggles that they're having, I think this would be something that would be extremely beneficial to our community to, I think it would really be, an advantage to get some uniformity, and I think people will respond to it, very honestly. I really do.
Thank you.
Has Waste Management seen an increase in load since they distributed their system in other communities?
No, solid waste generation is almost a given for any community where we have a history, and we have a history here that I can track back to 1992. We have that history in terms of what the generation is, and unless there's storms or flooding, your generation is fairly constant. It just is much more convenient. If it exists on a 2-container limit, and then there's a sticker required for anything over and above that container, that's great, and everybody has trained themselves to do that. But you know that 4 times a year, you're going to have more than that. The holidays, 4th of July, things like that, and it becomes inconvenient. This becomes, as a city-sponsored service, much more convenient, much more easily utilized, but it doesn't really skew the pattern of solid waste versus recycling. Recycling took its big bump with the introduction of the carts. And that was because it's functional for recycling. It's much more volume. It's ready to go. You have the convenience of knowing that what you set out for recycling doesn't become litter as it used to with the bins. What we're dealing with is a fairly constant supply and generation of solid waste, but it's much more easily contained and much more. And while I'll never say that it is animal proof, because I've seen some incredibly clever raccoons, it's much more resistant to tampering by animal, and and it's not being spread by animals. That means you have fewer vector problems with mice, rats, and everything else. So it has just numerous advantages for the community. But the only way to find that out for sure is to try. We're offering a chance to try it a little bit.
John, I know from your committee standpoint, do you support the idea of a extension of the
Well, I think it's
contract
appropriate,
again?
yeah. I mean, because I don't think we can finish our getting bids
Right.
in that time. I'm not sure we need to do it till next June.
Would be
I would
yeah.
encourage us to have a little quicker pace, but I'm not going to be here, so you guys do what you want.
Saying that.
We still want your
Not
opinion.
gone yet.
I ain't gone yet.
So-
I mean, I would say, make it February 1st or whatever, April 1st or March 1st, or, that's my inclination, because I just don't like to delay on stuff. But if you want to give people these things and make it all neat and out on South Hills or wherever you live, fine,
I'll take that as a motion.
Yes.
What is Waste Management's experience with the increased size of the container and older people managing the devices?
The nice thing about senior citizens, having crossed that bridge myself, is that it is nice, a convenient handle position, either with the 96 or the 64 gallon, and it doesn't have to be lifted and carried where you're counting on your feet to do all the locomotion. You can kind of push it along. It's almost like a walker.
Is it 4 wheels or 2?
Two. It's you find the acceptance of it is, and we have between the 96 and the 64 is just a matter of where your hands are positioned, and we can tailor it to that use, that need.
I want to just chime in here also, just being the one who read all these surveys. We did give people a chance to comment. And of course, one of the most popular comment was, please bring back the curbside pickup. And maybe we should consider doing that once every couple of years or something. Cool. But the other thing that I thought was very worthy of consideration was, how about giving senior citizens a lower rate? Because clearly they generate less trash than other groups. Now, we have a large percentage of our population be senior citizens, so I don't know, we'd have to charge a lot more for everybody else, I guess. But I'm not sure how that could work out, but I thought that was a valid request.
Okay.
And in response,
I'm sorry, you have 200 size containers, so you could charge by the container.
Right, you could say, yeah, the
That'd be an
96
easy
one
way
would be
to
a little less.
delineate. If you wanted to have a larger capacity, then you could.
the idea of tiered container service is very common, and we've just installed those in both Ely and Atkins in the last 18 months. To great acceptance. And again, it's keyed toward you're going to pay for your generation. The overall price probably comes out the same, but you're paying for your own generation. And in terms of senior citizens, it's a great boon to be able to hand out.
Okay. So Dave, what I'm going to do is actually, because we don't really have an action item on this listed on the agenda, so I feel like I want to just, at our next meeting, if you could just write up your proposal for the extension,
Happy to.
get that to us, and then we'll put that on the next agenda for approval.
Last item that I have is we fully well understand at Waste Management that service to Fairfield or any other community is a privilege and not a right. We've been in service to you for quite a while, and for the 19 employees that we have employed in our base operations here in Fairfield, thank you very much. We appreciate the business. We look forward to the opportunity and the continued service.
Okay. Thank you, Dave. Appreciate your presentation.
Thank you.
Okay. Next, Council, I'd like to invite our FEDA Executive Director, Josh Larrabee.
Hello, Council. Just shy of 60 days ago, I and the Director for Fairfield Aluminum Castings were in front of you. It was about the time of the transition, or a few days before the transition from LCAST, or from Falco to LCAST. And I've been meeting regularly with the LCAST leadership about every 2 weeks, doing a check-in. The council took on a serious consideration of the mortgage release that Falco had with the city, and I definitely appreciate that consideration. I have here tonight Tom Browning and Scott Kelsey, I'm sorry. I've invited them here tonight. I thought it would be a good introduction for you to be able to meet them, get an update on the company. They've retained all of the jobs in Fairfield. They've added jobs. They've invested in equipment improvements, and they're in the process of planning for facility and further equipment investments here in the next couple of months. So I'll let them take it from here. Tom Browning and Scott Kelsey from LCAST.
Great. Thank you, Josh. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Thank you. We've heard some very good things, so it's nice to meet you and to hear a direct report.
We're very excited to be here. I'm Tom Browning. I'm the president of LCAST Midwest. My vice president, Scott Kelsey's with me. I have the pleasure of being the one who's going to speak most tonight, because Scott does really all the work on a day-to-day basis. I kind of sit in the corner and sign checks and those sort of things. So it's my role to share with you a little bit about us. We're very excited to be here in Fairfield. It has been a whirlwind first almost 2 months. We're closing in on 2 months of activity. And I think all of you are aware, we took over a very distressed business. And so there was a tremendous amount of effort from our side to begin to restore relationships with our customers, begin to produce product and get our employees back engaged in the company and get the company moving in the right direction. And so we've spent most of those 60 days working from every daylight hour we could find, getting accomplished and getting rolling here. And we're glad to be here tonight and share a little bit about LCAST with you. For those of you who don't know LCAST is a company headquartered in Peoria, Illinois, started in 1970 as a one-man dream of a company. Today it is a company with revenues north of $30 million that employs 150 people in Peoria, that over the last 20 years has invested some $35 million into that community in plants and equipment. And it's well known in the community for being a true solid employer. All of our employees receive some of the best benefits in the business, and on average we exceed the industry in employee retention by almost double. We had recently the retired operations manager from Outcast come to help train our employees here in Fairfield, and he was telling us he only has a measly 44 years of service at Outcast. So he knew a thing or two to share with, so we're glad to have him. But it's employees like him who demonstrate what Outcast is looking to bring to Fairfield and to this community. We're very confident that we can, that our business model will work here. We were excited to purchase the assets of this facility because it complements what we do in the aluminum casting business. We think there's tremendous potential in North America to market our services, and we have a goal to double the size of the company within the first 5 years. That rather optimistic outlook will bring with it jobs to the community. And what we want to do is we want to establish ourselves here in Fairfield as one of the employees that people talk about when they talk about looking for a good job. I know I remember years ago when I started in the business, I was looking for a very simple thing. I wanted a decent paycheck and some good benefits. And that's what we are looking to bring to our employees that we have here in Fairfield. As Josh said, we retain virtually all of the staff. Since the day we started, we have added 27 new people to staff. We have spent in excess of $1.5 million investing in equipment that we're putting in place, new melting equipment, new processing equipment. And we hope that by Christmas time of this year that we will have recovered all of the past due orders that we have with our customers and have the business on track to start making profits and contributing to the community going forward. Since the time we've been here, I personally have learned a lot more about Fairfield and what a wonderful city it is. We're very excited to be here, and we look forward to working with the council and with the city going forward to help grow things and grow the community in general here.
Great.
Thank you, and we invite you all to come down to see us. If you're ever in the area, feel free to stop in, but come dressed appropriately because we'll probably.
Tom, who is there? Is Scott there in Fairfield permanently on a?
Both of us are.
Both of you are.
Yeah,
okay.
both of you are. Now, my role is primarily sales and marketing.
Okay.
So Scott is in charge of day-to-day operations.
Okay.
So he'll be the individual who will really be on site every day. As we get rolling here, I'm pretty sure that the first 6 to 9 months I'll be out visiting customers and working out in the marketplace, drumming up new business for us.
Terrific.
Just
great.
Just
Thank
curious,
you.
do you have enough room in your present location for what you're doing?
Yes.
You do. Good.
Yeah. Certainly, there's adequate floor space as we get it cleaned and organized and revamped into what we want it to be. Most of you know there's a satellite location, another facility that the company uses in Missouri. There's plenty between the two places. There's plenty of storage space and plenty of place to grow in both facilities.
Good.
Great. Well, thank you for coming to say hello, and we look forward to seeing your growth in our community.
Great. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Have a
Thank
wonderful
you very
evening.
much.
Council, next we'll move to our resolutions, action items, and ordinances. And the first, we have consideration of a change order on the wastewater treatment plant. And we have with us from McClure Engineering, Alex Potter. Good evening, Alex.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and City Council. So tonight I'm here to kind of discuss the first change order that we had on the bid package 1 wastewater treatment facility improvements project. So back when we bid the job in February, you all know that we came in a little over budget. So we were working for potential opportunities to save some cost as we were trying to move through the USDA process of securing financing. So we were working pretty closely with USDA Rural Development, with City Administrator Mike Harmon and Melanie Carlson, and then also with PKG Contracting, the contractor on the job. We identified several opportunities, and two of them I'm here tonight to basically consider on this first change order. There are two deductions in cost. The total is $610,327. The first item is much more hefty of the two, but it's modifications to the standby power generating system. So what that basically entails is a change in rating of the generator from a continuous rated generator to a standby generator. The purpose of the backup generator at the wastewater plant is to provide power in the event of a power failure. So it's not necessary in the grand scheme of the budget problem that we were having to have a generator that would be rated to run continuously when the power feed is generally in operation. So that change, and with some associated changes in the generator, including a slightly lower power capacity to more accurately or closely fit the power demands at the plant, and then a kind of modification to how we put the automatic transfer switch, resulted in a deduct of $580,597. And then the second item is related to the top running single girder bridge crane system that was going to be used to remove the very large stormwater pumps down at the influent and stormwater pumping building. We received a total deduct of $29,730 for this item, which basically just removes the crane in and of its entirety, and also the wiring and controls that would be used to operate the crane. When thinking about the practicality of having wastewater treatment plant operators or staff pulling pumps that weigh in excess of 7,000 pounds and are almost 10 feet tall, we decided that for the value that we were getting for this, it seemed best for the city to hire a professional in the rare circumstance that would happen. So like I said, that deduct is just about $30,000 or $29,730. So when you add those two items up together, the deduct that we have tonight is $610,327 on the project, which represents about 3% of the total cost, which in the grand scheme of things is not a lot, but when you look at the dollar amount, it's pretty good.
It's pretty good. It's not every meeting we approve
it's good news.
a reduction of $610,000. So,
and the one thing I'd like to point out about that reduction, the city doesn't automatically lose that money. That money goes into the USDA contingency fund. So if something were to come up on the project, you'll have that money in addition to some other contingency funds.
Yeah, my first thought was you may be back with a change order.
No, at this point we don't have any positive ones, which is good. But yeah, so
great. Well, thanks, Alex. Any questions, council? Okay, I would entertain a motion to approve the reduction through the change order. Moved by Flournoy. Second by Hamilton. Any discussion? Not, please call the roll.
Flournoy.
Yes.
Hamilton.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
Rasmussen.
Yes.
Hallie.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Revelinsky.
Yes.
Okay, great.
thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Alex. Next, council, an action item on the north entryway sign project, and this is part of our wayfinding program that is underway. It would be the first significant piece of that project put together, is one that's been going on for some time in a funding phase. The city has designated some funds towards this, and I think we're at that point, Michael, where we can look at this project to be constructed. So if you would tell the council where we are at this point in time from budget.
Sure. Jason, can you scroll down? There it is. So we have received some very generous donations. We got $5,000 from the Greater Jefferson County Foundation, $1,000 from FIDA, $1,000 from the Chamber, and $3,000 from the Convention and Visitors Bureau. We have lost funds that were granted the last two cycles, and Mayor Malloy said there's $1,000 left over in the wayfinding budget. Was that designated for the wayfinding commission that came in?
No, that was really just something that the council approved at my request in the last budget cycle. It was $5,000. We used $4,000 towards the study, and that $1,000 is remaining for the council to designate.
Okay. A few hundred from Rotary. They're going to do Happy Bucks. And I just put my name next to the last little bit because if we can't raise it, I'll cover it. So, but we have 15% in contingency. So hopefully we won't need that. The majority of those line items are actually exact figures from local businesses. So the Core 10 lettering will come from Creative Edge. The electric work will be done by Livewire. The stacking of the assembly of the stones will be done by Twin Builders. And then the stone itself will come from Anamosa and limestone from Weber Stone. So the only real addition is the in-kind at the bottom. Those are round numbers in terms of having the city pour the cement or the concrete base. Figured that's something the city could do easily. They do a lot of concrete work these days. We threw in some engineering, though most of that is done already. So yeah, it's fully funded, ready to go. I'd love to get that foundation done yet this fall. It's going to be a dry stack, so there's no reason that the stone can't be assembled. And weather permitting, the letters can be installed. There's just an adhesive that the rods that drill into the stone, as long as that isn't temperature sensitive, it could potentially be done. Then we'll come back in spring to do a little bit of landscaping. We're not going to do anything too fancy out there. Low maintenance is the idea. So, and this will be the final nice entryway sign to match all the others, something that should last for many generations.
Okay, thank you. Daryl, I'm going to start with you. How's your work schedule look this fall? Would you be able to get a concrete pad in place for this project between now and frost?
I can't answer for the weather, but I think we can handle it.
You think we maybe handle that? Okay, that would be great. So what we'd like to do then is to approve the expenditure of the $1,000 from the wayfinding and also the city's participation. Michael, I assume you're going to continue to coordinate this along with Melanie?
Yep. I'll try to handle as much as I can because I know she's extra busy. Yep. But yeah, anything I have any questions about will go to Melanie. But it's a pretty straightforward project.
Okay.
I move for approval.
Okay,
Second.
moved by Revelinsky, second by Anderson for approval. Any other discussion? Not, please call the roll.
Revelinsky.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Hallie.
Yes.
Flournoy.
Yes.
Hamilton.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
Rasmussen.
Yes.
Great, thank you very much. We really look forward to that. Next, I'd like to invite Melanie Carlson to lead us through these next couple of steps. Essentially, we have some continued tax increment financing work regarding urban renewal planning, and we will have some meeting dates to set with some of the other taxing authorities. Go ahead, Melanie.
All right, so tonight in front of you, you have two urban renewal plans for approval and setting the dates of the consultation with the taxing bodies. I'll do my best to go over this. John Morrissey couldn't make it tonight, and as I tease allers, remember I'm an engineer, not a city administrator, so either good or bad, I'll try and explain it best I can. So the urban renewal plans allow you to create a tax increment financing district, which will collect the incremental tax from both the Lincoln Avenue development and the traffic expansion. The increment on the Lincoln Avenue plan, Jason, page 16 of the PDF if you're...
It's not loading.
Okay.
Right.
Well, so then on your iPad's page,
It's not
it won't load
loading
there
there
either. Same thing. Okay. It's a big file, but the improvements that we're looking at for Lincoln Avenue is related to the phase 1 housing that they built, but start to make way for the phase 2 of the housing. And the improvements that are listed in the urban renewal plan are paving of South Court Street, which would be a north-south street that ties into Lincoln Avenue to facilitate continued development. Then also installing water main along there, sidewalk along Court Street, and then makes provisions for streetlights at the corner of Lincoln. Streetlights, not traffic lights, at the corner of Court and Lincoln. The pro forma and the cost of each of those items, we're trying to schedule a Ways and Means meeting to go over that with them and to talk about how the city will be financing these projects until the increment is completely collected. But the pro forma is very positive.
Told Jason to try it now. It just popped up. So
It's a rather large file.
Well, I think you've covered
Yeah.
what you wanted anyway,
Yeah.
so no, I don't think we need to go to that. Okay, council, any questions for Melanie on this? So then the date that would be setting would be October 30th, and then that would be an 11 a.m. meeting with the taxing bodies to go over the project and get their vote on proceeding. So I'd entertain a motion to approve the resolution of necessity and setting that date.
So
Move to approve.
Okay, moved by Flournoy, second by Rasmussen. Any discussion? Not all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same sign. Thank you.
The second urban renewal area is in, call it the old industrial park, or the FIDA industrial park on the west side of town.
Before you go, I think this second resolution, though,
Oh,
is
yes.
tied to that, and we are going to postpone.
That's correct.
Okay, so this next resolution, council, which would be setting a date for the development agreement that is not completed yet, should come back to the council at our next meeting, so we will postpone that, and then we'll go ahead and move on to our final resolution.
Okay. As many of you know, that traffic's made a significant expansion this last year. So this plan would capture that increment from that additional building and use it to pave what would be West Tyler. Tyler is an east-west road right in front of where Hawthorne is now, what used to be Marathon Photo. Right now, the street goes east from 23rd. We would propose constructing approximately a block to the west of 23rd. This will help with traffic flow, also open up some of their additional lots, as well as open up a significant portion of FIDA property in that west park. And again, the pro formas and the actual projects we'll go over with the next Ways and Means meeting, as well as go over everything with planning and zoning Monday, sometime soon.
Okay, thank you, Melanie. And then, so council, that extension would service that expansion that has just taken place, also would give FIDA access to the west side of that area, and then, I'm sorry, south side of that area, and then also it does provide access to the west, continuing to hopefully someday connect that all the way through. So this, I think, is a good project, obviously a very stable company that's been expanding rapidly, and would be good for us to support. So this is, again, a consideration of necessity and setting the date of October 30th, 11:30 p.m., where this business will be taken up again with the other taxing authorities. So entertain a motion.
Move for approval.
Moved by Revelinsky to
Second.
approve, second by Flournoy. Any discussion? Not all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same sign. Okay. Thank you, Mel. Appreciate it. Yes, the next three action items are setting public hearing for rezoning changes, and these will be going through planning and zoning on Monday and coming back to you in November. So we'll be setting November 13th as a hearing for these. And the first one will be to rezone 413 North 3rd from M2 Manufacturing District to B1 General Business District. So entertain a motion to set the public hearing for November 13th.
So moved.
Moved by Anderson, second by Flournoy. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Next, we'll move public hearing to rezone lots 9 through 14 of Block 5 of the Hens subdivision and Block 5 and 6 of Hen, Williams and Company Addition, the Old St. Mary's Church, from B1 General Business to a Planned Unit Development, or PUD. That will also be November 13th, 7 p.m. Entertain a motion to approve the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Revelinsky, second by Anderson. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same sign. Public hearing for planned unit development by New Chicago by Accelerated Learning. This is a separate development, I presume. And that will also be set for November 13th at 7 p.m. Entertain a motion to set the public hearing.
So moved.
Moved by Flournoy,
Second.
second by Hamilton. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same sign. Okay, thank you. Next, council, will move to first reading of our ordinance on the usage of ATVs within the city limits. And I'll ask our committee chair that's been looking this over, Katie, if you would kind of give us some background of where we are right now, and then we'll open the public hearing.
Yeah, the Public Safety and Transportation Committee was approached by a group of individuals here in town that are requesting use of their ATVs on city streets. And they modeled their request after what had already been approved within the county. So there is a set limit on speed. There are safety precautions put in place. And the purpose of this was not necessarily recreational, but so that they could help with things such as clearing driveways, running errands. It's definitely not a group of youth that are coming to us. It's a group of individuals who are wanting to use this as a means to get around. That might be a little easier than hopping in a car. Again, it was modeled after the ordinance that's been placed in use in the county. We did speak with the police and the sheriff to see if there had been any issues with that. And to date, there hasn't been. Mr. Messerly is here to answer any questions the council may have. He's the person who's kind of spearheading this request. The committee met, we looked over the ordinance, we made a few changes to apply to city streets because we do have 2 highways running through town. Made a couple modifications, had the city attorney look it over, and we've got the ordinance before you tonight for first reading.
Okay, thank you, Katie. So at this time, we'll open the public hearing and ask if there's anyone who wishes to speak for or against the proposed ordinance. Yes.
Hello, Council. I'm Julie Silvers, and I live out in suburban Heights. No sidewalks, lots of traffic, and ATVs, we already have 2 or 3 zipping up and down the road, illegally, of course, but we have people speeding through our neighborhood illegally, and our kids walk, our dogs, we walk our dogs, we go family bike riding down to the trails. I don't get why we need 4-wheelers in the city limits.
So the speeding that you're talking about is by the
Residential areas.
by the ATVs.
We have a couple of ATVs that zip up and down our road, which I'm on 33rd Street, not 32nd. But we have a lot of cars that just excessively speed. The whole neighborhood is constantly, that have kids, is yelling, slow down, or what are you thinking? So just now, if these people some of them are kids, some of them are adults. It's adults and the kids riding them. If they get free rein to ride them in the city limits, what does that do for the kids' safety? Family safety. I don't know where they're wanting to ride them. You say to run errands to Walmart? Or are they going to access Grime Street that has no sidewalks as well? And people are walking in the streets? Are they going to be on Burlington where we have no sidewalks? I don't know where they want to access, but if they're trying to access our main stores, they're going to be on streets that have no sidewalks. And there's no safety for our children or for our families that want to walk or ride the bikes. So I'm totally opposed to it.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
We appreciate your coming and speaking to us tonight. Anyone else that would like to speak at the public hearing? Okay, this will be the first of 3 public hearings, so we'll close the public hearing at this time. And council, are there any questions that you have regarding the ordinance, the way it's written for the committee?
I had a couple of questions about Section 3 and when we're describing secondary roads, gravel and level B secondary roads. Do we have any level B secondary roads in the city limits of Fairfield, Daryl?
No.
Okay. And if we're talking about the city, shouldn't that be modified to match what we have here in our city? Secondary roads usually are considered separate from primary, which are state highways. Secondary roads would be county roads normally, that kind of thing. We could be considered a secondary roadway here in the city of Fairfield in some cases, but in other cases, I don't think we would be classified as that. Would that be the case, Melanie?
Having secondary roads?
Yeah, are we classified as secondary roads here in the city? So there's wordage here that really doesn't apply to what's going on in the city in a section that's titled Operation on City Streets and Roadways Permitted.
Okay.
So
Your proposal then to strike the language that isn't relevant to?
Yeah, we need to modify the language that's irrelevant to what's within the city limits here. Operation on level C roadways is only permitted to those who have authority. I don't think we've got any roadways that are locked. At level C roadway, you're a property owner and you're given a key to a gate that you're allowed to open and close, and you're the only one that really gets to use that roadway. So again, this whole section kind of really needs to be overhauled a little bit. Was there mention in this of the speed limit maximum restriction?
Yes.
Yes.
35 miles per hour.
And where is that at? Section 4, number 1. Section 4, number 1. Okay, I had missed that when I had read through that. Now, that's in there for restricting people from going out on West Burlington and
Highway
East Burlington, past the, out there where Cardinal's at, going down the hill there. It's
so your point is
45.
there are very few places where the speed limit is above.
We were just trying to make
30.
sure they could get into and out of town in the areas where it is posted higher than 35, but they will still be restricted to a speed limit of 35.
That's,
for their own
that's
safety.
counterproductive to transportation in general. You want to have your traffic all flowing at the same rate of speed where it's posted at, because if you have an accident, you can exponentially cause more damage when somebody's going slower than a higher speed vehicle. So maybe that ought to be at least thought about.
We ran over this repeatedly and we stuck with the 35. We feel it's safest for the drivers.
Yeah, what would you suggest, Darren?
Wait a minute, just a minute. There's a reason for it being 35, according to John Morrissey, is that's the liability to the city is diminished. If we would allow them to go at 45, we would be at risk for permitting them to drive at 45, assuming it's a safe speed for them to drive at. So 35 is what was recommended for that purpose.
Okay.
So the city wouldn't be liable for
Because these are open vehicles, and
increasing
so
a higher rate of speed, right? Or encouraging a higher rate of speed.
Okay. I just.
I mean, we understood your point of view, but
traffic.
I know, but where there's 45, aren't there
Studies.
wide shoulders in those portions of the town mostly?
Some of them, yeah.
Some of it,
Burlington.
not all.
Not all of them.
No.
But
You
they're
go out to the
encouraged
east
to
side
be.
of town, and that isn't the case.
They're encouraged to be on the shoulders. And if they can be on the shoulders in those higher speed areas as much as possible, that'd be what we would recommend.
And that's written in the recommendations.
I believe in the county, right? I mean, they have the same restriction. Is
They
that
do.
right? They have the 35 mile an hour speed limit, but most of the county roads are much higher than that.
Yeah.
It's a liability thing, according to Mr. Morrissey.
Okay.
So if it were up to the people who are making the request, it would be higher. So.
I was just concerned with what happens in a traffic accident when you're two different vehicle speeds coming at each other, and you know there are higher accident locations in Fairfield than there are in other portions of Fairfield, and when you're talking about a higher accident location, that happens a lot out in front of Walmart. And not that you're going to jump in and drive to Walmart every day from out at Suburban Heights or somewhere like
People
that.
might. People might.
You might, but the speed limit on all that, except for 32nd Street, is higher than 35 mile an hour, and that's where my concern came in when I was bringing this up. So someone coming off of 32nd then would have to ride the gravel shoulder
all the way down.
Where there's shoulder available, that's one of our
Okay.
guidelines to use
And
the
then
shoulder.
once they get to, what is it, 24th, 26th?
Like Best Western or something.
Yeah, beyond
to the
the,
fairgrounds.
no, yeah, 28th, sorry,
Yeah,
thank
which
you.
gets 35
Thank you.
again.
At 28th, though, the curb and gutter starts there, and then you have to go
They'll be
back
on the
into the roadway or within the extra area.
which we're not
out
even
there on the
touching in this.
outside.
Yep.
So,
We're very aware of it.
We discussed it in committee, and we had even considered saying you can't drive on a street that's posted higher than 35 miles an hour. We discussed that. And it was pointed out that there's a lot of businesses and a lot of destinations that are on that area, and it would be really a pinch, you know. And we thought, well, they could go down to Grimes and approach from the north, or something. And it's not practical.
no,
And so-
it's not. That's
Yeah.
why I was just trying to get an idea of what was going on
Yeah.
and not sitting in on
Okay.
the committee.
Yep.
I felt I needed to ask these things.
Sure. Melanie, do you have
definitely
some
put it
comment
back
on?
if we're-
No, I was going to say I will work with Katie and Rebecca to correct the designations on the roads to the DOT
Just
classifications.
strike those three sentences.
I say we
I
can
would
make
just
those
bring it
corrections.
back for the second reading if
Yep.
there's a second reading.
Yeah.
Okay. The comment I wanted to make to Ms. Silvers also is that I think you brought up two good issues. One, our chief of police is, I'm sure, listening to the concern about speeding in that area, and I think that potentially we can look at that from a patrol standpoint. The other is sidewalks, and we've told ourselves as a council that we would get back to this issue of those areas in town that our neighborhoods that were not built with sidewalks, and see if we could do a program where we could start to connect more of our neighborhoods in that way. So I think it would be fruitful to maybe look out in Suburban Heights and see if there's something that can be done there. So council, any other questions regarding the ordinance as presented? Not entertain a motion to move it from the first to the second reading.
So moved.
Moved by Anderson, second by Flournoy. Please call the roll.
Anderson? Yes. Flournoy?
Yes.
Hamilton?
Yes.
Thompson?
Yes.
Rasmussen?
Yes.
Revelinsky?
Yes.
Hallie?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Next, council will move to our third and final reading for off-street parking requirements and regulations. We have not received any additional feedback at City Hall. Any comments or questions from the council? This is public hearing. We'll open the public hearing at this time. Ask if there's anyone who would speak for or against this ordinance. Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing and entertain a motion to move this through the third and final reading.
Move to approve.
Moved by Rasmussen, second by Anderson. Discussion? Not, please call the roll.
Rasmussen?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Revelinsky?
Yes.
Thompson?
Yes.
Hallie?
Yes.
Flournoy?
Yes.
Hamilton?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Hey, council, since we last met and made an offer to our second candidate for the city administrator position, and the terms of that agreement were accepted by Aaron Koiker, who is very excited to be coming to Fairfield and starting his new position. He will be here, he intends to be here by November 27th. But you do have for review the letter outlining the offer that we made to him. It has been signed by Aaron, so I would entertain a motion to approve the employment letter of agreement, which we'll be sure is transcribed into the employment agreement finally, to bring Aaron Koiker on as city administrator.
So moved.
Moved by Anderson.
Second.
Second by Revelinsky. Discussion? Not all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same sign? Okay, thank you. Council, in my report, have an appointment for the Planning and Zoning Commission to replace Ron Holt. We're going to thank Ron for his long service on the Planning and Zoning Board. I'm recommending Anna Bruin, who is with Pathfinders RC&D, to fill the position on Planning and Zoning.
Move for approval.
Moved by Revelinsky to approve.
Second.
second by Hamilton. Any discussion? Not all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same sign. Thank you. Council will move to our committee reports, Property Committee.
The property committee met on Monday, the 16th, and we had 2 items on our agenda. One was concerning downtown alleyways, garbage and grease pits that are back there for restaurants. I had written up the minutes and sent them out, I think, early enough for people to at least review a little bit. But the main discussion revolving around that was cleanup of one particular place that we identified that needed it very badly. It was done within 2 days of the meeting. It was already cleaned up and power washed and all of that. We also talked about doing a survey of the businesses to see how they're using their dumpsters and what would be more convenient for them or not convenient. We discussed maybe having central locations for those dumpsters at the B Street parking lot and also the 2nd Street parking lot. Those all need to be have an assessment done in order to do that, but there are some things that could be changed in regards to how trash is handled out in those alleys, and a lot of it is centered around higher residential use of buildings in the downtown area, and so that's where the concern came from. But there isn't any need for any action at this time from the council on that. There was a report of a farm animal being kept within the city limits, but not in compliance with the city code, and that code is Chapter 6, 10.010, and it spells out size, setbacks, and fencing for farm animals in general in that. What came as the complaint was that a neighbor was complaining that a next door neighbor had a crippled feeder pig that they had brought to their home from out in the country. The pig, when they brought it in, of course, was fairly newborn. It was about a month old, so it was very small. Now it's about 100 pounds, and as we all know, feeder pigs go from 100 to 300 very rapidly. This one, again, was crippled, and it was destined to have problems getting around anyway. That's why the farm that had it was willing to just give it away. The owner of the pig felt that it was being used as a therapy animal. She is under some physician's care for PTSD, and there are exceptions sometimes to what someone can use as a therapy animal or a service animal. And there is a distinct difference between the two. Therapy animals are mostly dogs, cats, those types of animals when you live inside the city. Service animals, they're a protected class of animal. If they're designated that, then there's doctor's orders that go along with that kind of thing, and they're used to help the person that has them function more normally. In this case, the only documentation the lady had was from people that felt that she got benefit from the pig being there with her. So it was just a form of therapy. It wasn't an actual therapy animal. The neighbor that was complained about the noise, the smell, the setbacks for confinement, poor care, and living conditions as reasons for having the animal removed per code. The committee heard from John Morrissey, and again, he explained what the difference was with a service animal versus a therapy animal. Morrissey went on to explain that the pig is not in compliance with our ordinance, and the designation of therapy animal does not comply with protections afforded service animals. So the committee voted 3-0 to direct Scott Vaughn to send a letter to the owner giving them 30 days to remove the animal from the property. I hadn't had a chance to talk to Scott yet, but I'm sure he's already sent that letter. He had said he was going to send it within 2 days after the meeting on Monday the 16th. So at this point, there isn't any action that's being asked for from the council. The committee just decided that we need to stand by ordinance and have that removed.
Okay. Thank you for your report. I think it's the animal outgrew our ordinance, but I do hope that she finds another companion.
Yeah.
Because it sounds like a very valid concern. So thank you for your report. Blue Zones project completion?
Yep. Thought we were done with this, right?
Yeah.
Well, we were done with all our hard work, but Blue Zones, gentleman named John Werger contacted Ken Daly and myself, who are kind of the unofficial contacts for Fairfield Blue Zones, asking if we wanted to continue to participate for a fee. And we politely declined. Now, if you remember, everything we'd done to get the Blue Zone designation on all the restaurants and the workplaces and the schools and all the things we did here was volunteer basis. And we had Jenny Weber from Wellmark assisting us at their own expense. So Wellmark and Blue Zones have kind of broken up. Wellmark is now supporting the Healthiest State Initiative. So Blue Zones is on its own. They want us to replace all our signs because the signs they gave us say Wellmark, and they want to replace Wellmark with 2017. So
Daryl, they can come and get them.
So to remain in compliance, we have to take down all those signs before January 1st, 2018. And if we want, we can get the new ones. So
oh, wow.
Right now, the Wayfinding Commission is completing a sign audit of the major entryways into town. And so this might be a good time to rethink whether we need those signs up any longer. It was a fun ride. I enjoyed it. I'm sure everyone else did. But switching signs out, maybe.
Yeah, I think that, I thank you, Michael. I appreciate your report. There was really a lot of value that came out of the program itself and in a lot of different areas, workforce in the schools and different things. But as we went through this process, it was always way too political between Wellmark and the other organization, and to be done with the program and to still be under the sway of their politics. My attitude right now is they can come get them. But anyway, we'll let that sit for 24 hours and see how we feel about it. Unless the council has any other thoughts or any other ideas. So, all right, we'll give it a little bit of time. Melanie, you have a project update for us.
It is the end of the month, and construction is starting to slow down, but it's been a very productive month for the contractors that have been working. A couple things I'd like to point out. The Step 2 sanitary sewer conveyance, I believe we discussed this at our last meeting, but there will be an open house here at City Hall, November 6th from 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. Regarding the Step 2 sanitary sewer and any of the property owners that would want more of maybe a one-on-one discussion about their property. The formal public hearing is the following Monday at your next council meeting. The letters did go out after the last meeting. We've received a couple calls, and a lot of people, I don't want to say they're excited about they're accepting of the project. They understand that this is necessary to remove the SSOs. So far, some good understanding from the property owners. The next thing I just wanted to point out was the Walton Lake spillway repairs. Last Wednesday, crews from the Water, Wastewater, and Streets Department poured over 80 cubic yards of concrete for the upper floor of the spillway. The thickness in the floor varied because we changed the slope to a uniform slope rather than the way that it had originally been built. It was a long day. They worked very hard, but this will be the last pour at Walton for the year. Temperatures starting to get cooler. So the city crews will be completing Walton in the spring. Right now, the level of Walton is at a good level for both the fish and the spillway. We are going to keep the spillway or keep the level 4 to 6 feet low, just to keep water from going over the spillway. If we would get an extremely heavy rain that would fill up those 4 feet, it's not going to cause any damage, but we also don't want to have any extra cleanup in the spring when they are ready to start the bottom floor. But considering everything that they found when they were tearing Walton apart, excellent progress made on Walton this fall. A lot of hard work from the water department and all the crews. And I have been talking with Steve, the water superintendent, about giving an update in the spring as far as the money saved and the hours put in. That it has been a really good project for the city. So unless there are any other questions, those were the only items I wanted to point out.
And Melanie, I know we had some good early communication with the residents at Walton. Do you think we might go back and update them as to why we're waiting until the spring? I know I received one phone call from a resident who wasn't happy to hear that, but again, I think your explanation could help with that, and there's a possibility of getting that group together again to let the residents know, give them a project update essentially.
Okay. Did we mail out letters last time, Rebecca? Or public meetings, maybe? We'll
I
get
think you did.
communication
Yeah, I think
out
you
to
did.
them.
Just if
Yeah.
there's some form of communication so that they can get an update. It could be in the form of a letter, could be in the form of a meeting, either way.
Okay.
Yeah, and the
Melanie,
letter might be appropriate.
Is Adams going to still happen this fall? Do you know?
Stephen Patrick, did you get an update before you came?
Well, I got
So the question.
Is
Good
Adams Avenue going to happen this fall? It's been torn over for a while now.
The project is on, as the way I understand it, the project is on hold, waiting for a gas main to be relocated by Alliant. I guess the way I would say it is that if they got it relocated this week, there might be a chance, but it's looking pretty slim for this fall still, I think. So, just with the temperatures, I mean, getting down below 34 degrees, that's not good for pouring concrete.
So with that gravel, as we go into winter, are we just going to try to keep it as smooth as possible with gravel?
We'll see what happens with the temperature, but I'll work with French Reniker to come up with a solution. Do the best we can with the funds we have, also considering everything that's delayed the project, but we'll do the best we can for winter.
Okay, thank you, Mel. Yes, if there any other business for the council? If not, entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
To adjourn.
Okay, moved by Hampton, second by Anderson. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same sign. Meeting adjourned.